Trump's new line, actually, Biden is the real fascist. After another speaker pledged to end democracy, Trump accused Biden of authoritarianism at the Conservative Political Action Conference. At the annual Conservative Political Action Conference this weekend, a far-right media personality called for an end to democracy to loud cheers. Two South American strongman leaders gave speeches, self-described Nazis openly mingled at mixers, and other guests celebrated the violent attack on the Capitol on January 6, including one who made a bespoke pinball machine arguing it was a government setup. Amid this anti-democratic fervor, Donald Trump took the stage to argue that the real authoritarian threat facing the country was President Joe Biden. During a speech on Saturday, the former president claimed without evidence that Biden is surrounded by very bad fascists, saying electing him would be voters' only passport out of tyranny. As The Independent reported, Trump said in National Harbor, Maryland on Saturday that Joe Biden and his henchmen have you trapped, and it's an express train barreling toward servitude and to ruin. It's moving at a speed that Joe doesn't understand because Joe, I don't think he knows what the hell's going on, to be honest with you, but he's surrounded by some very bad fascists. It's certainly not the first time Trump has dubiously deployed the F word against his opponents. Trump, however, is just about the worst person to make a credible argument, given his open praise for anti-democratic leaders.
He's the leader of, right? He's the leader of Turkey. President Xi's like central casting. There's nobody in Hollywood that can play the role of President Xi. The look, the strength, the voice. It's good to have a good relationship with Putin and Xi and all these people that have lots of nuclear weapons. And Kim Jong-un I had a good relationship with. He's a tough, smart guy. He's strong like granite. He's strong. I know him very well. President Xi of China. And he's standing there. He's a fierce person.
His goading of political violence, his demonization of anti-fascist protesters, his rhetoric that immigrants are poisoning the blood of the country.
They're poisoning the blood of our country. That's what they've done. They poison mental institutions and prisons all over the world, not just in South America, not just the 3 or 4 countries that we think about, but all over the world. They're coming into our country from Africa, from Asia, all over the world. They're pouring into our country. Nobody's even looking at them. They just come in. The crime is going to be tremendous. The terrorism is going to be, and then we built a tremendous piece of the wall, and then we're going to build more.
And his clear disdain for democratic processes. And this year's PAC was just about the worst place for Trump to make such an argument. As I reported last week, conservatives invited 2 Latin American strongmen to speak at this year's conference despite both men being known for their allegiances to violent political forces. One of them, Salvadoran President Nayib Bukele, has even branded himself the world's coolest dictator. Bukele staged a successful coup-like event in a congressional building back in 2020 that some have compared to the January 6 Capitol riots. Javier Milei, the far-right Argentinian elected in 2023 who wielded a chainsaw to symbolize his plan to disembowel his country's government agencies, was a PAC invitee, as well. Milei has downplayed violence carried out by Argentina's dictatorial regime from the late 1970s to the early 1980s and has allied himself with the regime's sympathizers. If these appearances weren't a clear enough sign of the annual conference's anti-democratic vibe this year, NBC News reported the event was also heavily attended by Nazis, self-identified National Socialists, the name of Hitler's political party in Germany, who mingled openly with other attendees. According to NBC. But this year, racist conspiracy theorists didn't meet any perceptible resistance at the conference where Donald Trump has been the keynote speaker since 2017. At the Young Republican Mixer Friday evening, a group of Nazis who openly identified as National Socialists mingled with mainstream conservative personalities, including some from Turning Point USA, and discussed so-called race science and anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. That's not to mention far-right activist Jack Posobiec, infamous promoter of conspiracy theories, who gave a welcome speech saying the gathering was the end of democracy and that January 6th was the start of a mission to overthrow the government. He later told NBC News his remarks were meant to be satirical. None of us should be surprised that Trump railed against purported fascism from Biden at an event featuring actual authoritarians. But those of us invested in democracy should continue to call out this deflection tactic whenever we see it. Jack Smith says Trump's handling of classified docs was far worse than Biden's. In a new filing in Trump's Florida case, Smith cited Robert Hur's report on Joe Biden's retention of classified material. Special counsel Jack Smith said Monday that President Joe Biden's handling of classified documents, which earned him a scolding from special counsel Robert Hur, is not remotely similar to the deceitful criminal conduct of Donald Trump. In a 12-page filing countering Trump's claim that he's been selectively prosecuted by attorneys loyal to the Biden administration, Smith's team rejected Trump's effort to compare the former president's conduct to Biden's. In fact, Hur's report underscored why Trump is facing criminal charges and Biden is not, they noted. The defendants have not identified anyone who has engaged in a remotely similar suite of willful and deceitful criminal conduct and not been prosecuted. Nor could they, Assistant Special Counsel David Harbach wrote. Trump, unlike Biden, is alleged to have engaged in extensive and repeated efforts to obstruct justice and thwart the return of documents bearing classification markings, Harbach added. And the evidence concerning the two men's intent, whether they knowingly possessed and willfully retained such documents, is also starkly different.
These are bad, sick people.
That was your coup, against you.
Well, it started right at the beginning.
Like when Milley's talking about, you were going to try to do a coup. No, they were trying to do that before you even were sworn in.
That's right.
Trying to overthrow your election.
Well, with Milley, let me see that. I'll show you an example. He said that I wanted to attack Iran. Isn't it amazing? I have a big pile of papers. This thing just came up. Look. This was him. They presented me this. This is off the record, but they presented me this. This was him. This was the Defense Department and him.
Wow.
We looked at some. This was him. This wasn't done by me. This was him. All sorts of stuff. It's pages long. Look. Wait a minute. Let's see here. Look at that.
Yeah.
I just found, isn't that amazing? This totally wins my case,
Mm-hmm.
Except it is like highly confidential, secret. This is secret information. But look at this. You attack, and
Hillary would print that out all the time,
she'd send
Private
it,
email.
no, she'd send it to Anthony Weiner, the pervert.
Please print.
By the way, isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
I was just saying, because we were talking about it. And, he said he wanted to attack Iran and what? These are the
You
papers.
did. It's
This was done by the military, given to me. I think we can probably, right?
I don't know. We'll have to see. Yeah, we'll have to try to
Declassify.
figure out
it. See, as president, I could have declassified
Yeah.
it. Now I can't, but this is
Yeah,
classified.
now we have a problem.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
It's so cool. I mean, it's so. Look, we here and I have, and you probably almost didn't believe me, but now you believe me.
No, I believe
It's
you.
incredible, right?
No,
Hey, bring some Cokes in, please.
Trump is fighting criminal charges for hoarding classified secrets at his Mar-a-Lago estate after leaving office and then allegedly resisting efforts by the National Archives and Justice Department to recover them. Harbach emphasized that the volume and sensitivity of the records kept by Trump stood in stark contrast to other examples of mishandling of classified records that have been resolved without criminal charges. There has never been a case in American history in which a former official has engaged in conduct remotely similar to Trump's, he wrote. It was the first time Smith has raised Hur's findings in a court filing. Earlier this month, Hur delivered a blistering assessment of Biden's handling of classified materials over his 40-year career in office, and he included a stinging assessment of Biden's age and memory that the president's defenders have described as a gratuitous political attack, particularly in a report that recommended no criminal charges.
The way that the president's demeanor in that report was characterized could not be more wrong on the facts and clearly politically motivated. Comments that were made by that prosecutor, gratuitous, inaccurate, and inappropriate.
Biden has repeatedly emphasized that his own lawyers proactively informed the Justice Department when they discovered classified material at his residence in Delaware, permitted searches of his residences, and actively cooperated with investigators. Trump, meanwhile, is charged with seeking to mislead the Justice Department, and even his own lawyer, about the documents he held at Mar-a-Lago. On a macro level, the citation by one special counsel investigating a former president, Smith, of another special counsel who investigated the current president, both appointed by Attorney General Merrick Garland, underscores the extraordinary role the Justice Department is playing as Biden and Trump head for a 2024 rematch.